Aloha Manga Club, it's your boy Lohali signing in with a brand new background, some new positive messaging, but most importantly, I have another guest from the UK today. It is that man and his manga. How are you doing today?
I am doing excellent. How are you doing?
You know what? I'm doing pretty good. I'm about 2 days away from my wife and I's anniversary, and I'm just kind of getting to enjoy it because I'm going to have some Wagyu ribeye steak tonight.
Awesome. Well, happy anniversary from me first.
Thank you. I genuinely appreciate it. So, we were talking before the podcast, and it seems like I have a track record of getting awesome creators from the UK. But there's one thing that
Yeah.
I start to really dive into, and it's how long people have been creating. And you actually published your first YouTube video that's public 5 years ago.
Well, I actually posted my original on my original channel about 10 years ago, but that is long gone, dusted in the depths of YouTube, never to appear again until I want to laugh at myself in some kind of 10,000 subscriber anniversary potentially. But yeah, years ago I did some anime figure reviews, I believe. I believe some board games as well. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was I was doing all those years ago. But yeah, it's been a long time, and then I kind of just stopped for a long time, and then just started up again about coming up 3 years ago.
If you ever want to get animals but just don't know where to start, join me as we look at some
One
great beginner
second,
titles. How do you think those
I
experiences?
literally clicked on your channel just so I could see this, and it popped. I don't like Google Chrome. It doesn't let me mute things. But I wanted to pull it up because I really want to be specific with what your very first video was, because I agree that it was some. Yeah, your very, very first video was a roller coaster tycoon board game.
Oh my god, yes, I remember it now. I think that's the first one live. I did have some older ones, which is like some old One Piece figures and stuff like that. But yeah, Roller Coaster Tycoon, the board game, I believe, was my first official video that I've left up for people to view.
And view they have, it has a board game video from 5 years ago has 1.4 thousand views. That's pretty awesome. And then you
That's
start to get
amazing.
into your figurines. You have
Yeah.
Nico Robin, you have Assassination Classroom stuff, and actually a lot of your first videos involved Nico Robin.
Yes, she is still automatically the best girl.
What makes
Oh,
Nico the best girl out of all of them?
because I don't know. I don't know. I think it's maybe when I first kind of got into One Piece, I was 16, 17, and it was just like, yep, she's an attractive older lady. And now she's younger than me.
She's what is she now? 29?
She is 30, I believe, after the
Is she
time skip.
30? Okay.
Yeah.
I always get
So
ages mixed up, but I like your logic that you went, she's an attractive older woman. I'm in.
my first, I think I got into One Piece via hentai.
Okay, 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 okay. Back up just a little bit. How
So
did you get into how?
years ago, I was really into Final Fantasy X2 and Soul Calibur 2. And there used to be a site and it just had doujinshi for every single series that you could think of that was at the time. And then it was just One Piece. And then One Piece had about 3 or 4 pages worth. So it was, and this was pretty much when Skypiea arc was going on. So obviously there was a lot of Nico Robin stuff because she was the popular new character. And I think I just ended up binging the entire lot of it for over like a few weeks or something. And I was just like, you know what? I think I need to actually try and get into it. And funny enough, I can't remember what she's called. Early on in the series, didn't I didn't know the characters' names. I thought Usopp was Luffy's dad. Don't know why. I just saw a picture of Volume 5, and I was just like, Usopp and Luffy look related. It must be his dad or his older
How
brother
do
or
they look
something like
related?
that.
They look nothing alike.
It was this was back on when Viz used to have like everything. I think everything that was out that month on the back of their volumes. if you look at some of the old Viz volumes, they'll have like this month in Shonen Jump, and it'll be like One Piece Volume 5, Naruto Volume 3, Bleach Volume 1, Eye Shield 21 Volume 1. And all you had was this tiny, tiny black and white photo of One Piece Volume 5. And I was just like, Usopp's Luffy's brother. But I digress. So going back into One Piece, I didn't know the characters, I didn't know the names. I knew Nico Robin joined the crew from pictures, and I thought Nico Robin was Alvida when Alvida pops up in Buggy, um, the Buggy mini story when she appears all Finn. And I was just like, oh, that must be the character who joins later on. She's obviously following them due to Buggy, and then she just joins them. She just gets a change of a hairstyle. And honestly, it was like 16-year-old me was an idiot.
I mean, I didn't want to say anything out loud, but 16-year-old you sounds like you needed a little bit of help.
I used to have to wear glasses then.
I mean, I still have to wear glasses now. Wait. You stopped and you don't need glasses? Do you wear contacts
I
now?
got eye lasers.
Oh, you got eye lasers. Okay,
Yeah,
so that's terrifying. That is terrifying.
That was the most uncomfortable situation I've ever been in, but it was worth it.
I don't know, man. I like my glasses. I feel distinguished with them on my face.
It's kind of, when people say, like, when people say like about having like phantom limbs if they've lost like a limb or something in the what, I've got phantom glasses. Like 12 years ago, I got my eyes lasers, and every now and again I'm still sitting there going, "Where's my glasses?"
And then you're like, oh, right, okay.
Oh yeah, they're not here. It's just
the beams in my eyes.
That feeling of having them on your face for so long and then not having them, you still feel it every now and again.
That is so weird. So, are there any other manga series that you got into through Hentai and Doujinshi?
Love Hina was the very early one. That was kind of like the one that I kind of moved on from. That, like, I remember reading a lot of doujinshi, then just like, oh, I'll check out anime, and it's like, well, I've seen this, and yeah, I know this is kind of risky, and I remember picking that one up. I think even then they still had like the Bleach, with what you call Rangiku, I believe she's called, I can't remember what she's called from Bleach, and Tsunade from Naruto. They were obviously had appeared by then, so I remember seeing them, but I can't remember anything off the top of my head what kind of got us in. But I think there was a lot of series where I remember picking them out and just be like, oh yeah, I recognize them. I recognize them from that one book years ago.
Dude, that is such a weird way to get into different. Like, that's something that I've never considered. Just like getting into manga. Like, I'm used to the anime route, but somebody going, nope, I read Doujinshi, and it introduced me to the world of One Piece and Love Hina.
The thing is, though, it's like, I mean, obviously when I got into it, this was like 2003, 2004. Like, really at that time, if I wanted to watch anime on TV, I was like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon. Even I think Dragon Ball Z had finished at that. GT might have been airing at that time, but it was like, really, it's like, if you got into it, that was the only way to get into some series. It's like, that was how I discovered it. Like, a lot of anime was out there as opposed to the stuff that was just on TV or what was available to buy in a shop. It's kind of weird.
But that's that's really cool because you got into manga in a different era than a lot of people, right? Like, I got into it, obviously, like I've said before, a kid brought in monthly Shonen Jump that was sold here in the United States, and that's how I got into it. But I was, younger. You said you were 16-ish when you first got into manga. So what was that kind of like coming from a different generation, almost, so to speak, in that aspect?
See, it's weird for me because, I mean, I got into, like, obviously I watched the classic ones that everybody watched, like Gundam Wing, Tenchi Muyo, Dragon Ball Z, Medabots, Shin-Chan, a few others that were all on TV at the time. But then it's like I got into anime and manga with Full Metal Panic and Love Hina and Doujinshi. And then I bought like every manga I could find from Shonen Jump. And this was when Shonen Jump were like Bleach Volume 2 was brand new. This is I think the weekly show, not the weekly, the monthly Shonen Jump in America, we used to get them over as well. And I got into it and bought so much like old manga, like what's old manga now. And then I just stopped. So, and then I got into it again via, I think it was like High School of the Dead, Code Geass, Attack on Titan were kind of new. So, like, I got into manga and anime, stopped, and then got back into it when a majority of people got into it. So, a lot of these series, like Haruhi, I've never seen Haruhi ever because I completely skipped it. Lucky Star, I only got into a few years ago. Like a lot of Toradora, all of these big kind of names from like late 2000s, they completely bypassed me, and I still kind of feel like I'm playing catch up even to this day. It's so weird though because I kind of feel like I've been into anime and manga forever, but then I also kind of feel I'm still quite new in terms of what I'm into, you know what I mean? So it's kind of it's weird. It's just like one of those weird situations to be in.
I mean, that's actually really, really interesting that similar to me, you were really into it. You paused, but you didn't stop. You just kind of put a pause button on. You're like, not feeling it right now, and you came back in.
Pretty
Um,
much, yeah.
did you come back into Attack on Titan the anime, or when the manga was starting to get popular?
It was the anime had for the season one of the anime had fully aired. So it was around that time period. I mean, that wasn't the first one I remember watching. I remember I watched Code Geass and High School of the Dead, and Soul Eater, I think, was one of them. I could just whatever was cheap to buy on DVD at that time, I would just buy it and binge it. I think that was when I watched all of Naruto at that point as well. Or at least all of Naruto, original Naruto, if it's 2 years of filler and all that. But yeah, the anime of Attack on Titan had just finished, or maybe there was a few episodes still to go, so it was more or less done.
And see, to me, that's I'm super hipster. I actually read Attack on Titan before the anime came out. So when the
Mhm.
anime came out, I was already like, I know what's going to happen this season. I know all the secrets, so I didn't bother watching it, and I did not get into the hype of Attack on Titan. Like I feel like I missed something really special because it almost feels like there hasn't been something like that recently.
I'm not gonna lie, I watched all of Attack on Titan and I didn't enjoy it. Let's say um I tried to read the manga on the back of it and I didn't like the artwork, so I just never bothered with it. But even when I knew about, obviously, as the series went on, Eren turns into a Titan, and I just assumed that was some kind of shonen power up, so everybody would get these power ups. And I remember watching, I think there's a flashback where it has the armored Titan smashing through the wall and stuff like that, and I was just like, he's got that Titan's got the same hairstyle as that guy, and I was like, does that guy get power upped into this Titan? And it was just like, yeah, in the manga, they're all Titans. I was like, ah, I like them more than Eren. And I was just like, then I just like, I don't know why I was like, I watched all of Attack on Titan and just remember coming back off it. And I was just like, I didn't enjoy this. And I was just like, I never really went back to it.
I mean, there's certain series that you will like read or watch most of it, and then you're like, eh. Like it's.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with a guy yesterday. Who came on the podcast, and he said, there's some that you just have so much you time sunk. It's a sunken cost. You're like, I have to finish it at this point. I'm not enjoying what I'm doing, but I have to continue on with the story.
That was called Fairy Tale.
You're not wrong. Again, I love Mashima. I think that he writes fun stories, but I don't think Fairy Tale was what his wheelhouse is supposed to be.
I said this, I can't remember if I said it in one of the Discords or if I said it on Twitter yesterday. It's clear that he just wants to write an ecchi, but then he keeps getting bogged down by plot. So I kind of wish that he would just write an ecchi, a silly ecchi that it doesn't have to go anywhere. It can be tropias out, and that would probably be better than Fairy Tale, because when I look back on Fairy Tale, a lot of the funnier parts of it was the more ecchi parts, like where they go to the what was it? They go to the Wet and Wild or whatever, like the water park and stuff like that, and they're all over each other. And I remember like stupid stuff like that being really fun in Fairy Tale. Then I remember reading it and getting to the last few arcs and just being like, yeah, I've read so much of this, I need to finish it.
Which is really weird because like if you read his first series, Rave Master, like it has a completely different feel. It doesn't quite have as much of that etchy feel in certain scenes, but it's so much darker. And then Eden Zero is just like, nah, we're gonna do both etchy and dark. And I was like, that doesn't what? Yeah, Eden Zero has some very etchy like moments, but it also goes extraordinarily dark.
Yeah, I've only read the first 2 or 3 chapters of Eden Zero, but I'm kind of like, I, I, I really like the look of it. I really like his art style. I really like his character designs, but I'm kind of like, I was burnt before. Do I really want to get into it? So maybe once Eden Zero is complete, I might go back and just binge the whole thing because it's etchy. I feel like I have to read it at some point.
There's some everyone gets in bathtubs. Everybody gets in bathtubs. But that is such a weird thing for me to talk about because I've made videos before on my thoughts on fan service, and I think my opinion might have changed slightly. I still don't personally care one way or the other about it. I think that there's certain stories that creep me out because they include fan service.
Yeah.
Because I'm like that's no, we're sexualizing small children. That's weird to me. Like
So this is the thing. There's a lot of series out there. I mean, personally, in my opinion, if I go in knowing that this series is a fan service anime, so if I go into High School DxD or High School of the Dead or Keijo or something like that, I know what I'm getting into. I'm expecting that. It's when I pick up something like Fire Force or I'm trying to think of another one that kind of just like it's fine, and then just all of a sudden just like, oh yeah, this fan service is not needed.
History's Strongest Disciple Kenichi.
That was another one I got into via hentai.
See,
So
like for me, I originally got into it. I was like, okay, they're gonna do fan service, but then like every other chapter had like massive like clothes somehow are like much less protective than wet paper. Like
yeah,
I
basically painted on.
yeah, and then it they get hit by a weapon. Like a weapon does one pass, but all their clothes explode off. Like to me, that's what I'm like. Okay, that's not how this worked before. You're changing your own laws of physics here
Yeah,
to get the view. Like that's what bothers me when I see fan service like that.
yeah, it's really off-putting. I mean, I'm personally fine with it if that's what I know I'm going into. I can decide whether or not this is something for me. And then, as far as I'm concerned, if I watch High School DxD and I watch it and it's like, oh, this is a bit too much. At the end of the day, that's my fault for going into a fan service series and expecting that. You know what I mean? But I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, when it comes to ecchi, I'll try and see what the series is like. I tend to find like anything that's kind of revolving around a school, I'll try and steer away from it in general. It's not like there's plenty of other ones that don't require that to need to necessarily go into that. But there's some series that kind of just trick you. Like what's that one that's called in Shonen Jump at the moment?
Ayakashi
I
Triangle.
That's it. And I knew it was by the same person who did To Love Ru and To Love Ru Darkness, which again I've picked up the manga for To Love Ru. I've got weird opinions on that series because that was a series I loved in the first few volumes, and it's dropped off a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Triangle is just kind of yeah.
It's
I don't dislike it. It's actually really good from like I've actually really enjoyed it compared to a lot of the other battle shonen manga that's popped up as of late. But there's still some little bits here and there that's kind of like niggling us, where it kind of is like, if they got rid of this would have been perfect.
like I really enjoyed his. Those of you that don't know, Ayakashi Triangle was written by the same guy who did Black Cat, a series that
Yeah,
I absolutely love. And to me, Black Cat, there wasn't very much fan service in there. You know,
Mhm.
there was maybe a little bit because it was in early 2000, 2000 to 2004. I definitely have it pulled up on Google right now, so I can be fully frank here. But this is the same guy who did Black Cat, like you said, To Love Rue, but also Darling in the Franxx.
Yeah, I think they did the manga adaptation of Darling in the Franxx.
Yep, he did the illustrations for it.
Yeah, so I watched half of Darling in the Franxx and I felt that wasn't by far enough for me to watch, but I vaguely remember that being pretty fan servicey at some point.
I mean, if I remember correctly, the entire premise from Darling in the Franxx is you ba- is that the one where they basically I don't know. I might be getting
It,
this mixed up with something else.
if it's what I remember, it's get inside of the dinosaur Shinji.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds
And the main girl is also a dinosaur because
it like I said, I'm really just to me, like I said before, many a time before, I've been recommended certain manga that no one tells me what it's gonna be, and I go out and I'll buy it and I'll be like, okay, and I read through the first volume, and even though I bought the first five, and I'm like, no. Like
yeah.
Nejima, I mm.
I love Hina, and I bought the first 10 volumes of Nejima, and again, it would have been one of those series where I think for me it was the teacher-student romance that kind of was the thing that kind of overdid it for me, and I was just like, yeah, I just didn't enjoy my time with that series, and it was like I think I remember buying it because I love Hina that much. It was kind of like, oh, the next series must be good, but then I was like, I remember reading like 10 volumes and just be like, yeah, I really don't like this.
like I normally I'll give something like 3 volumes before I'm like, I'm not
Mhm.
about this. I read 1 volume of Nejima and I was like, nope, done. We're done with this. I am putting this away. I am not going through the other five. Like it did not tickle my fancy. It was not that great. And like he wrote a sequel to it, which I didn't know was a sequel at the time, but UQ Holder was technically a sequel
Yeah,
to Nejima. I did not know
yeah, I'm
that.
sure it's one of the characters from Nejima. I think it's like a wolf boy, and I think he's a wolf man in that. I don't know.
It's, it, it's just not my like that kind of stuff is just not my forte. Like I'm all about the don't get me wrong, mindless, stupid, very little thought put into it, battle shonen, sports
Mhm.
shonen. Like I love that kind of thing just because that's what I grew up with.
Yeah,
Um and
it's
that's
a, I'm kind of feeling mixed like on Battle Shonen. It's like I love them, but I'm also kind of starting to feel that I need a little bit more from them. Like I was really into Marshall when it first started. First 10 chapters of Marshall, I was like, everyone read Marshall, read Marshall. And now I'm kind of at the point where I'm kind of considering dropping it because I'm kind of like, it's Battle Shonen, but it's not really anything else at the moment. So I'm kind of, I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I mean, well, at least one of my biggest pet peeves in manga and anime is the tournament arc. I see a tournament arc, and I don't mind it so much in sports series because that's basically where every sports series goes. I Shield 21, Slam Dunk, Girls and Panzer, Keijo, whatever. That's around a tournament. It's when you're kind of in the middle of a series and then all of a sudden battle tournament. What was it? The one I watched a few years ago. I can't remember what it's called. It was about a bunch of boys in a prison, and they're all glittery and fancy. And then the first 10 episodes or something were about them trying to escape this prison. Then all of a sudden, it just randomly becomes a battle tournament, and I was just like, why?
I haven't even heard of that one.
I can't remember what it's called. Oh, that's going to annoy us because I've got the tip of me head, but it's ain't something I can't remember. It was so. I mean, it was a really funny series until like chapter 7 or 8, where it just became a battle tournament. I was just like, it doesn't need this. It really doesn't.
And like I said, I really do enjoy um like I if I go in knowing it's gonna be a battle tournament, I'm okay with it. Like
Yeah, I think that might be it.
Record of Ragnarok, I know that's going to be a battle tournament. Like that's literally the entire thing is is a tournament. Like
Yeah.
sports, it's the same thing. But I can kind of agree when something doesn't start off as something where there should be a tournament, and they're like, nope, we're gonna do tournaments, multiple tournaments, and you're gonna be fine with it.
Exactly. It's like, I don't know. I feel like sometimes a tournament arc, especially later on in the series, kind of shows me that they don't have. They want to introduce more characters and they want to get through this story, but they don't really know what to do with the characters. I felt like, and this is going back, is Dragon Ball. First few battle tournaments, fine with. It was towards the end of the series where they had the Majin Buu arc, they had another battle tournament. And it kind of just felt like this battle tournament only existed just because I had this massive cast of characters they didn't know what to do with. And they were just like, right, we'll stick them all in the tournament. They'll all get a few fights, and then we can kill them off for the rest of the series.
And like the Cell Saga was a good example where they're like, oh, it's going to be a tournament, and it was just 2 fights. It wasn't a tournament. It was just like straight up. Sorry, 3 fights. Mr. Satan, I forgot, counted as a fight.
Yeah, true.
He walked onto it and then he got slapped. Ugh. Ugh. But
I think it's just so weird. It's just like, I mean, other series do it. Doctor Stone, that had a tournament arc, and honestly, that is my favorite example of a tournament arc in the last few years because that tournament arc was just stupid. There was no reason for it.
Was that the one at the very beginning of the series? Was that the one at the very beginning of the series? Close to the very beginning when they infiltrate the village for the first time?
Yeah.
See, like that's more fun because it's not so much about the main character winning; it's about the main character helping somebody else win, and it exposits onto the person while also introducing people who are going to be central players. And I think with Dr. Stone, it's not so much that they're trying to introduce them to get rid of them; they're trying to introduce them so you can get to know their personalities and how they're going to react in a stressful environment, which Dr. Stone, unfortunately, is a stressful environment. And I think that's an interesting way to introduce it. Whereas I think probably one of the best tournament arcs of all time is the Dark Tournament from Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah, easily one of the best ones.
Because it has, the stakes are real. The characters that are introduced are interesting. They come into play later on in the very last arc of the series. And you really just kind of get a good, fun arc. And then it ends and you're like, okay, I feel good. Everyone kind of gets all the strings are kind of like tied up at the end. And it is built on. It's not like you're suddenly being thrown into a tournament arc that didn't exist. It's everything was built in and everyone was connected to everybody else.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, I didn't know that Genkai and Toguro were lovers until I was doing some research for a video that's coming up and they were like, former lover of Genkai. And I was like, whoa, I thought they were just on the same team. When did that happen?
Yeah, it's been a long time since Yu Yu Hakusho. Like, Yu Yu Hakusho was the one I read when monthly Shonen Jump was coming out, and they would put maybe 2 or 3 chapters in each volume, along with Naruto and One Piece and Yu-Gi-Oh.
It was.
I can't remember what else they had in there.
The monthly Shonen Jump, the very first few. It had Sandland, one of the series by Akira Toriyama. They were doing the Cell Saga of Dragon Ball Z. They had Yu-Gi-Oh, One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, and then they do different one-shots every now and then. But those were the main 6 or 7 that were in there at the very start. And then you had the transition away. I have a few of the volumes sitting downstairs on my shelves, and I'm just sitting here trying to remember which ones they are.
The one, like, I feel like there was for me, I mean, the ones I remember getting were after Dragon Ball Z. So I feel like it's kind of like Shonen Jump was divided into 2, was like Dragon Ball Z and then non-Dragon Ball Z. So I remember One Piece being in, Yu Yu Hakusho, Naruto, Yu-Gi-Oh, Shaman King. That's the one I'm
Shaman
forgetting.
King. That was I forgot. I was forgetting Shaman King because it ended so weird. Such a good series.
After that, they kind of just Hikaru no Go was the other one that they had in as well.
That's right. That's how I get into Hikaru no Go, and Hikaru no Go ended terribly.
Yeah, I watched Hikaru. I remember I got a tablet for Christmas a few years ago, and I got just after the Shonen Jump app went live. And I remember binging like 100 or so chapters of Hikaru no Go on Christmas Day, just wanting to finish it off so I could go on to read something else. And I remember just getting through the last like 5 or 6 volumes and just being like, I don't care about any of these characters anymore. All the characters I cared about are just gone.
Like
And
the most interesting characters just kind of got shoved to the side because they need that. It's by the same author and illustrator of Death Note. I'm gonna put it that way.
I understand that obviously the idea was that he's grown up, so a lot of the characters didn't need to appear, but I kind of felt that it was just like there was a certain point, I think the first like 15 volumes, it was just like him at school, and then he would just pop in and just be like, oh, what's the Go Club doing? It's like, oh, we're going to have a little few chapters of them. And then after that, I just kind of went, yeah, he's left school, we don't care about these characters anymore, we'll
Like-
shove them to one side, and then
His one friend who was like a super cheater,
yeah,
like who's genuinely a good Go player, just ended up never catching up to him. I was like, this kid is why are you guys doing this?
it just felt, and again, I just felt like this is the thing with tournament, like the tournament arcs. It kind of they focus on the tournament arc, but it's like it would have been nice to have like these other characters maybe pop in or whatever. But then it was just like, yeah, they're still to school. He's in this. We're just gonna separate them off, and then
it ends in just like it doesn't even end in a satisfying way. It just ends in the middle of a match.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It's like, I mean, I'm kind of glad it ended because we got Death Note on the back of that. But it's kind of like,
nope, horribly upset by that. I'm the most upset by the fact that we did not get a conclusion, a real conclusion to Hikaru no Go, and instead we got Death Note. That upsets me.
I kind of feel like they should have went back to Hikaru no Go. I mean, people see it like, what series would people love to see come back? I mean, I would love iShield 21 to get a proper adaptation. And people are like, Reborn needs it, which I'm kind of like, But Hikaru no Go, if they went back, redid it, got rid of some of the extra oomph, and just finished it off, I would be so happy with that.
Like,
even if they just did a few more chapters just to finish it off, that would be amazing.
I think that would be so good because we never got to see what the perfect play was, like the perfect move was. Because the entire thing was going off of that. So, and spoilers ahead, Sai disappears halfway through the frickin' manga, and you're like, oh, what? He didn't get to see. He was like, I felt happy. I was like, no, that wasn't your point in coming back. Your point in coming back was to play the perfect move. That's why you killed yourself. Like, what? There is no relief here.
It didn't make, because to be honest, that was the point when, because I kept thinking he was coming back. I was just like, he's going to come back. I genuinely thought in the last few episodes he would come back just to kind of be able to do the perfect play, but then it kind of didn't happen. But the thing that got me the most with Hikaru no Go is that even reading it, I have no idea how the rules of Go are supposed to happen.
It's unlike I always use iShield 21 as probably one of the best examples of a sports manga, like pure sports, not fighting, just sports, because they actually explain to you how the entire game works. Like, they break down all the important aspects so you can understand it. Unlike, you know, basketball, they give you some of the rules, and most of them they don't do a great job of explaining that. Hikaru no Go, they're just like, nope. They give you like one explanation in chapter 1, and then after that you just have to figure out how it's going. And the only way that you can pay attention is if you read the author's notes at the very end of the chapters, where he was like, oh, this is what this is. I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I want it to be included in the series itself so I can actually feel like I'm a part of it.
Exactly. It just felt, I don't know, I just felt very disjointed. It was like, I think the problem is that it was quite wordy as well, so it's like you kind of got to a point where it was just like they would have all of these notes, and you just be like, I don't want to read them. I just want to get to the next chapter.
Yeah, it was Hunter x Hunter before the time of Hunter x Hunter, basically.
Yeah,
whole chapters of exposition. Actually, we made it.
Definitely been the same, to be fair. Actually,
yep. We already know my thoughts about that. We already know my thoughts. Okay, we're doing fine. I'm not upset or anything. Not like I hate Death Note.
Death Note is a series that I read and have no need to ever go back to it. That's pretty much it. I'm fine with it until a certain point, and it's the same point that everybody has with Death Note. Once they get rid of L, And I don't care if it's a spoiler. It's a 12-year-old, 15-year-old manga now. Once they get rid of L, that there's nothing happens after Death Note. Death Note L ends when L dies.
I'll go even further than that. I didn't mind the first quarter of Death Note. I actually enjoyed the first quarter of Death Note. What I didn't like was anything after the introduction of Misa Misa.
Misa Misa was so wasted, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna give Netflix credit for actually giving it a little bit more purpose in the series.
I don't think anyone's ever given Netflix credit for their anime adaptations. It's like giving them credit for their Full Metal Alchemist presentation.
Well, I actually know someone who got into anime via live action stuff on Netflix.
Which live action?
There was the Death Note one. They got into it. They only got into anime a few years ago, so they was like, oh, I'm gonna check out Death Note. I think they're just one of the people who just watched it because it was on Netflix. As you know, anything about anime, it was just like it's a new Netflix thing. Watched it. Interested enough. There was enough of a hook for them, and they thought, oh, I'll check it out. Oh, there's this anime and there's this manga. Now they watch practically everything coming out. They watch more than me. They watch more than me this season. I've watched like one thing this season, but yeah, they watched so much, and it's like they always say it's like I can't hate the Netflix adaptations because there will be some people out there who get in via those live actions.
I can respect that. I can see how that's true. For me, I've only watched one thing this season, and I've been very disappointed by the adaptation itself.
What have you been watching?
God of High School.
I watched the first three, and again, tournament arc, and
see, to me, I know that I'm getting into a tournament arc, which I'm like, okay, cool. I know what I'm getting into. This is gonna be fine. And I actually read the manhwa, the webtoon about it, and the webtoon is like 50 billion times better.
Yeah,
like it. I know exactly where this season is going to end. I know exactly how it's going to end, and I'm very upset about the path that they're taking to get there. Like very like it's beautifully animated. I love the sound design of it, but just I do not like I don't like how they're changing important plot lines to speed up the process.
Yeah, I feel this is a thing a lot of the time. I mean, I'm huge on light novels, and I've stopped watching anime adaptations of most light novel series because it's like a light novel is about two, maybe three volumes of a manga, if we say on average. And 2 volumes of a manga is probably translated to 6 or 7 episodes. But like every time I watch an anime based on a light novel, there's an odd few like Konosuba, Overlord, which are pretty decent adaptations. But there's so like they just skip massive chunks because they picked up a thing and just went, right, we want to get to volume 7 in the light novel, which is probably enough for like 3 seasons of anime, but we're going to do it in one. And it's just like,
what I thought was surprisingly like no one really. I picked it up because I thought it was interesting. I started watching it, and that was The Devil is a Part-Timer.
That's another one. I started with it when I got back into anime and manga around 2014, 2015. I can't remember when it was exactly, but that was one of the first Blu-rays, and I remember watching it, really enjoying the first few episodes, and I kind of just trailed off with it. But I've got the light novel sitting waiting to read, so I'm kind of like, oh, it'll be one of those ones that I'll read the light novel, absolutely love it, and go back through it and just absolutely love the anime. But
it was just
the anime itself didn't do much for me. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. It was just so like I really enjoyed it because then I got to but then you get to the very end, and you're like, okay, time to continue on with the series, and they're like, nothing new is coming out with the anime, and I was like, son.
Like so many series, it's like I still see like to this day people still sitting there going, High School of the Dead season 2's coming. No, it's not. Don't kid yourself. I mean, it by all right, it should, if it had the content. Like, I don't care what anyone says. High School of the Dead is now considered a classic anime, but there's just no content there for obvious reasons. It's like High School of the Dead season 2 is Triage X, really.
How do you define um, something that's a classic anime, a classic, something that's a classic. Because to me, High School of the Dead is, newer than 2005. It's newer than 2005, 2006. Like, what constitutes a classic anime now?
For me, it's kind of difficult because I see all those things where they joke about where it's just like new era shonen fans where they're just like, oh well, they like Marshall and stuff like that, and then there's like the old era where it's like Doctor Stone and My Hero. But the way I see it is that anything that has managed to stand the test of time for, I'm going to say this day and age, I'm going to say anything longer than 5 years, I would probably consider to be a classic anime. Now, there's stuff like Gundam, Dragon Ball, One Piece, JoJo, Berserk. You're not going to be able to touch them. But the thing is, people are still talking about titles such as, I'm trying to think of some of the head. Well, High School of the Dead, I still feel like there's one that a lot of people watch. Soul Eater, a lot of people still get into. Steins Gate, Monster Musume still has a dedicated community. Attack on Titan is still being massive, and I'm just trying to think of
Full Metal Alchemist,
Full Metal
Brotherhood.
Alchemist, yeah, well, both of them really. Full Metal Panic. There's a lot of series out there. It's like, I feel like if they're still being talked about to this day, and they still have quite a dedicated fandom, I would probably consider them to be classics. I mean, maybe not the same classic is because obviously people say it's like, well, you go to look at a classic manga, oh well, Berserk's there, or Gundam is your classic anime, but yeah, they're still there. But if something's still enjoyed by a lot of people, you could consider it to be a classic, especially in this day and age where a series ends and like that, it's just gone.
Forgotten. Yeah.
No one talks about it.
Which I think happens a lot because we have so much content coming our way now, and we're talking about
Exactly.
so much that unless it's genuinely really, 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 really good, it's okay. Because I mean, think about it. Is anyone right now genuinely talking about the Demon Slayer, about Kimetsu no Yaiba?
I still see a few people here and there. I mean, Demon Slayer is quite difficult because I see a lot of younger people. I went to Newcastle today. I went to the manga store. There was a lot of kids hanging out reading My Hero Academia and Kimetsu no Yaiba, Promised Neverland. So I still feel like they're still kind of being talked about because they're quite new. But it's like I'm trying to think of something else that kind of aired like a few months ago, but like nobody even talks about it, and it's quite difficult because that series has kind of been forgotten about by me as well. It's kind of weird. Well, for example, Copcraft. I got Copcraft on anime, and that was an anime, same writer as Full Metal Panic and Amagi Brilliant Park, so it's got a bit of prestige. Had a little bit of people talking about it when it came out, and no one talks about it anymore. Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid is probably another one. I feel that was really popular. In fact, I can tell you the series that was the title that got so much hype, so much attention, and nobody talks about it is Yuri on Ice.
Oh, that one. It was so popular over here in the United States that Spencer's Hot Topic had a ton of like more Yuri on Ice merch than anything else. And then once the series ended, like 6 months after the series ended, no one talked about it anymore.
Yeah, it's like it's so weird because I mean that was so big, and it's just so weird how it was so big, and then it's like I mean that won awards for Crunchyroll. I mean, well, Crunchyroll gave it awards, and yeah, I know there's still that whole drama over should it have even gotten it? Did it get it because it was just popular at the time? But then it's just kind of like 6 months later. I remember the Blu-ray coming out, and they really fast tracked that Blu-ray, and that Blu-ray just barely sold at all, and that's kind of scary when you think about it.
Like think about other things like Made in Abyss.
Made in Abyss again. I mean, it's quite difficult because that got the movie a few months ago. But I still think that one still gets a little bit
It,
talk.
it gets a little bit of talk, but for how much? So for how much it was originally talked about compared to how much it is talked about now, like that
Yeah,
drop off is insane.
exactly. What else have we got? Actually, it's easier to look at stuff from about 3 or 4 years ago. Devilman Crybaby.
Oh
No one
yeah,
talks about that. Violet Evergarden. No one talks about that. Land of the Lustrous. That was really popular when it first came out. Hardly see anybody talking about it anymore, and it's kind of sad when you think about it. It's like the entire industry is kind of just feels very disposable
I mean, it is.
to an
It's
extent.
entertainment. It's media, and in the current society that we're living in, if it's not constantly in front of us, we forget about it because we're getting something new and something different shoved in front of us.
Exactly. So I feel like any series that is still being talked about to this day, and I mean heavily talked about. I mean, we'll laugh, Monster Muscle Mate. Still, a lot of people still seem to talk about that whenever Monster Girls get mentioned. Oh yeah, Monster Muscle Mate. There's even a series that I feel would have dropped off, but been given a lot of extra legs. What's it called? Interspecies Reviewers.
Oh
By all
yeah,
means, that series was Funimation did more for that series by cancelling it than they did when they were airing it, because as soon as Funimation cancelled that series just became legendary. Uzaki-chan, that series, like, as much as I like it, it was definitely a series where once it finished, nobody would talk about it, and I feel like people are still going to talk about it for a while. Just, I mean, not necessarily in a positive light, but it's going to be remembered.
and that's
Scary.
all great points. Like that's what makes the like medium so weird.
Yeah, it is weird because it's like, I mean, you'll see yourself, like, there's the dedicated collectors that will be still be buying a series of manga years after the anime has came and gone. And it's like you're sitting there, it's like, oh, volume 15 of Silver Spoons out, or I think last year they finally finished Barakamon, and I was just like, oh, I meant it's finally finished. And I was like, I haven't thought of this series in a long time, really. It's weird. Like, nobody else is thinking of it, and then you just sit there and it's like, look what I got, and then it's like, I remember reading that like 6 years ago. It's still ongoing.
Like it's still doing a thing? That is ridiculous. Okay, I guess I'll
Yeah,
pick it up and read it again.
exactly. So it's just so weird how, like, as a collector, you seem to have more attachment to these series that are a few years old compared to maybe the newer stuff.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't watch a lot of anime, so it's harder for me to give an honest, review of the industry as a whole, but I think I've heard people talk about it before, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll tend to agree that it's a lot of used to be when something came out, there wasn't as many series coming out at one point in time. So it was
Yeah.
in your mind a lot longer instead of it's it wasn't there wasn't as much competition basically.
Mm-hmm.
So you remember the things that were great because one, there's nothing else really to remember it by, and if right now if one season comes out, you might have three or four manga that are genuinely high caliber quality, but instead of
Exactly.
everyone getting behind one of them, everyone split up into those four camps, so the support isn't quite as strong.
Exactly. That's the thing. I mean, I was looking for as research for a video for, I think I was looking at 2007, 2008, and I was like, I mean, I personally wasn't into anime at this time, but I'm looking at it and it was just like, oh yeah, there's a Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, Code Geass, Lucky Star, Toradora, Black Lagoon, and Haruhi. And I think there was two or three others, and I was just like 10 series over the course of like 2 or 3 years is like nothing when you look at the amount of series that came out last year.
Like last year alone, in the last 12 months, we've had God of High School, which is supposed to be a super popular one, like we talked about a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had Vinland Saga. You had Mob Psycho season 2. You
Psycho,
had My Hero Academia come out with a brand new season. You
exactly.
had Kimetsu no Yaiba. You had Interspecies Reviewer. Like those are 7 in the past year, not even full year. Like let's call it what it is, 9 months. Like you've had in 9 months, you've had 7 extraordinarily popular anime come out. Attack on Titan,
Attack on Titan, Fire Force, Doctor
Fire Force,
Stone,
Doctor Stone,
Prophet
Seven
from
Deadly
Neverland.
Sins, Seven Deadly Sins season 19,006,500,000 sadness. Like it used to be that you could name off on one hand the total amount of popular anime that came out in a year.
Exactly.
And now in a 12, like I don't have enough fingers to count this. I'm going to start using my toes. And that's just such a cool thing for the community because it shows that the growth of manga and anime as a whole, but it's also sad because it doesn't feel like we're as connected to this same idea and mentality that we used to have when we were younger.
It's one of those things that it's a very double-edged sword. I mean, anime is bigger than it ever has been, and I genuinely expect that a title such as Doctor Stone or Fire Force probably does more for the industry in its 3 to 6 months than a title that came out. We'll use Toradora or Black Lagoon or something as an example that came out 10, 15 years ago, still talked about, but not quite as popular. I feel like there's more people who's probably just watched this month's new popular manga or anime or whatever, than has probably watched one of the more classic series that's been going on for 15 years. It's quite scary in that aspect.
It's really concerning. Like not concerning. That's not the right way to say it, but it's just like
It's great.
it's great, but
but
it's
it's also kind of, like you said, we don't have that attachment. And I think this is one of the things I like about manga is that you do still get to have that attachment. If you genuinely love a series, you still tend to get that attachment by being able to continue it on for God knows how many years after the anime is done.
I'm just so intrigued by all of it. Like seeing how everyone reacts to new series, reacts to old series. It's just so intriguing, and it's really kind of. I'm not gonna say cathartic because I've been using that word a lot recently, but it's really fun to see.
It is. It's one of those things. I mean, especially like when you're a manga reader or a light novel reader, where you are ahead of the game in terms of what's going to happen in the next 2 seasons of My Hero Academia already because you're already caught up in the manga, and I don't even need to watch My Hero Academia because I already know what's going on. But I can tell when something happens in My Hero Academia. I'm just like, just wait until 2 episodes time. It's just gonna go.
Your mind is going to explode, and you're going to enjoy every single ounce of it.
Exactly. It backfires as well. I remember I went to a convention 2 or 3 years ago, and actually, how caught up are you on Attack on Titan?
I don't care.
Right, that's fine. So they had one of the voice actors for Attack on Titan at this convention, and he was doing a question and answer session. And this was when I believe season 2 or season 3 of the anime was out. And someone put their hands up and went, "So, how do you feel about spoilers? Erwin dying, like literally spoilers. Erwin dying. No break, no kind of. Do you want to know?" And the voice actor just went, "We haven't recorded that episode yet." And the person just went, "Well, I did say spoilers." And I was just kind of like, oh god. And like
What?
literally
Why are you being a jerk?
I wasn't caught up, and obviously I wasn't really fussed about the series, but it's like my mate said, it's like this was the voice actor's character, and this was gonna happen in like 3 weeks time. So it was just kind of like you could see just like everyone just like the whole hall. This is why like 200 people just went silent. And you can just see everyone just turned and just went. You can just hear like the buttons just like someone's gonna get the head kicked in here. It's like,
it's like,
oh my god.
try to justify themselves. I did say spoilers. It's like
Yeah, they had an argument with the voice actor for the character to justify why they spoiling the characters, their characters' death.
Just
Just
doesn't.
like it was so mad, and everyone was just like, "Oh God!" It's like that would live on. I mean, I don't remember most of the characters in the series, but I remember I know he dies now because that one person said like 3 years ago that he dies in a future episode, and it's kind of like it's so weird how like people can be so far ahead and then just not have that thought of being able to filter and just be like, oh wait, actually there might be somebody here who doesn't know that, and then kind of yeah.
They just don't care. They put their hands in the air like they just do not care.
Exactly. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm at the point now where I try not to check Twitter on Friday because I know if I wake up on a Friday, someone's going to spoil the new chapter of One Piece or My Hero Academia.
Yes, because read it legally.
Yep. But it's
Yes.
I genuinely don't mind as far as happens that if you want to read it illegally, if
Don't
you
spoil
want to
it.
read the synopsis, just don't post it for everyone to see. I mean, I and again, this goes back to Nico Robin. I knew that she did something in the new chapter because literally every single Nico Robin fan account was just going mental over like her doing stuff a few weeks ago, and I was just like, oh, okay, I might as well just spoil myself on the chapter now.
You're like, great,
Might
thanks, awesome, love it, love it, love you guys so much. So we are actually reaching the end of our hour, but that doesn't mean the conversation is done yet. I have two very important things to ask. One is the random question of the day. The other is something more streamlined, something that's actually important to the conversation. And let's go with the more important one first before we get off topic. If you were going to recommend 3 light novels for people to read, what are they and why?
Oh, so I'm gonna go with Konosuba because if you've ever seen an isekai, this just lampoons it. At some point, you're probably gonna read or see an isekai. So yeah, Konosuba is absolutely ridiculous. Just jokes about everything, jokes about JRPGs and RPGs on a whole, but also manages to keep being incredibly good. It's personally my favorite out of all of the light novels that's out at the moment, so definitely worth checking out. I'm just trying to think of another two now. Another one I would actually really like to see more people check out is a title called So Am I Spider, So What? The anime is coming out soon, so you can be ahead of that and spoil your friends or whatever you want to do. This is much like Slime Isekai. The main girl gets reincarnated as a small spider, and it's literally kill or be killed. She starts off super weak, struggling to survive, and then becomes insanely overpowered because she's just killed all of the other monsters in the area. But it manages to keep up in the ante week on week, month on month, whenever you read a new light novel. It manages to keep having that massive upscale, and that's just always going to be weak, even though it's just stupidly overpowered. The third one, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that's not an isekai. Bottom tier character Tomazaki. This one is about a guy who he considers himself to be absolutely. He was never given a fair hand in life. He says he's ugly. He can't talk to girls. He can't talk to anybody. But he's insanely good at playing not Smash Brothers. And he develops a rivalry with another player online with Smash Brothers. He goes to meet them in person, and it's not Stan. They haven't been catfished. It's actually the most popular girl in school. And the first thing she goes, I'm very disappointed. I'm really unhappy that you, of all people, is the person I've looked up to. And he's like, well, I've been given a bum life. This happened, this happened. I look ugly, and it's just like, nah. You just don't try. You've settled yourself into being this bottom tier character. This is who you think you are. you can be better. And it's kind of like a self-help book. It's kind of this whole thing where it's like, if you put the work in, if you try doing this, this, and this, life's going to be bad, but you can try and improve it as the series goes on. And yeah, it's just one of those ones where it's kind of like, it's interesting to see that way of being done rather than the main character just being insanely popular because they've got no social skills or whatever you tend to have in all of these series. But yeah, Konosuba, Spider Isekai, Summer Spider So What, and bottom tier character Tomazaki are free. I would really recommend that. Two of them you probably haven't checked out at some point.
Awesome. And finally, the random question of the day. Usually it comes from looking at my own desk, but I was looking behind you and I was struck with inspiration. If you had to get rid of one of your figures, and I mean blow it up, not sell it, explodorate it, which one would it be?
Oh god, I don't know because I can't tell what you can actually see on here. I'm just trying to think. Oh, I think this. Where is it? Can I reach? There we go. Our little potato girl, a blow up Umaru-chan.
Why would you get rid of that one?
Well, I've got another Umaru-chan figure there, which is bigger still. It's a better quality one, and that's just I don't know. It's just a little gremlin potato. I don't know. It's one of those ones I never thought I'd like, actually have to sentence a figure to death at some point.
Yeah, see, this is where the random question of the day comes in. You're sentencing a character to death without knowing that you were going to have to do it.
Oh, poor Umaru. That's what you get.
That's okay. So let everyone know where they can find you, because that will be linked in the description down below. So give us your elevator pitch.
So I'm a guy who reviews ecchi, light novels, manga, the odd hentai once in a blue moon. And you can check me out on YouTube. That I believe it's that man and his merchants. I still haven't managed to update that. And also on Twitter at that man that manga. I believe I'm going under at this current moment. Just type in that man in the manga. You'll find us straight away.
And don't worry, you have updated your actual title on YouTube to That Man and His Manga. So
it's That Man and His Manga. I believe the link is That Man and His Merch for some reason.
It'll be linked. I don't know if you'll ever be able to change that, honestly, but it'll be linked in the description down below. Please go subscribe to his channel because he is a phenomenal creator doing something and talking about subjects that a lot of people don't want to or choose not to in the doujinshi and the hentai realm. And I genuinely appreciate the candor that we've had here today. For everyone watching this, you know where you can find me because obviously you're watching it. But do not forget to like, share, and subscribe for more manga, anime, otaku, and just general good conversation. And for everyone new and old, welcome and welcome back. It's your boy Lohuli, and I will see you